Hola, Savage Rifters. Oh my god, the rifts have opened and barrels of backers and cash have flooded through. Congratulations, Mr. Roberson. You have spearheaded a crazy, successful, fun. I mean, it funded in like seconds and then bam, like it's going great.
I was going to say, how fast was it?
It was less than 5 minutes, but a lot of the guys were saying, hey, I was late because I read the Kickstarter page. So, I mean, we had this, it's a huge Kickstarter page. We have a lot of new material that people haven't seen before, like the pawns and the combat maps and a beautiful poster map of the Atlantean continent that's easy with a legend and notations for regions and cities. And then you can track your team's movement and travel across the map. So, I mean, they were reading all that stuff, right? Plus the do-it-yourself virtual tabletop kit. Yep. A lot of different options out there. And so I think that's part of it. People were reading through the whole campaign, and that takes me quite a few minutes. So we're still funded in less than 5 minutes. Some people were just throwing their money at their computer screen, I think.
Right, especially backer number one, who was in there for $1, and we're just sitting there looking at it going, really?
Yeah, I remember Shane was like, Sean, you have fans, right? But it was funny because...
You told your mom to back, right? Come on now.
Well, it was funny because I think it was Donald Fraser Burrows, I'm sorry, I've been doing stuff all day, but I'm pretty sure that's the fan's name. He's really active on the forums and on the Savage Rifts Facebook group. But he's a big Palladium and Savage Rifts fan. He said that he accidentally pressed something and pledged $1 and had to go back in and change his pledge so that he could actually get what he wanted. So that was a mistake, but it guaranteed him first place in the Hall of Fame there.
That's right. First click.
Yep. That's how it is sometimes, right?
You have to go back and fix it. You can say, I'm number one.
Right. So, no,
that totally means he's going to get his book first in hand when it gets delivered physically too, right? That's totally how that works.
That's.
I mean, I hope. I don't know. Jody probably slap us for talking about that, but
that's right.
Seriously, though, Chelsea and Christine will slap us. They're like,
they'll reach through the internet.
I was about to say you've just pissed off Chelsea and Christine.
Well, and it's like, you throw in a worldwide pandemic, it doesn't get much easier to fulfill shipping and stuff like that.
Right.
It's not an easy thing. And then people running ships into the Sinai Peninsula. I mean, so which, I mean, it's not, and sure, you might say, well, our books don't go through that pathway, but it's log jammed all world trade, right? So
it stops everything.
It messed up everything, right? It backlogged everything and sent a lot of those really carefully managed supply chains into disarray. But that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I'm super excited. I'm like really blown away by the support from the fans. I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to. I'm a Sean fan. Well, I just want to say, that's Venatus Vinco. Oh, you're messing with me. Thanks, buddy. Well, I just want to say though that we really appreciate everyone's support. I've been blown away by the amount of support we're getting on this Kickstarter. I don't think that Savage Rifts is losing momentum. This is shaping up to be right on the tail of at least, if not, surpassing the number of backers that we got on the second edition Kickstarter, American Armageddon.
Yeah, it's almost 800 already. It's like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really floored. I'm very humbled because I didn't create Rifts, but Kevin and I, we both really love Rifts, and I'm so proud that Shane gave me the chance to work on this and to kind of take the helm. And so I'm really stoked that this is something that's really working out for everyone involved. So a great arrangement for the Pinnacle family, and I hope for the Palladium family as well.
Well, gosh, we're getting all like, we're so excited. We're jumping the gun. So since this is the SavageCast and we have to do double duty, we're also doing the news you can use from around the Savage Sphere. And so before we get into the awesome, the deep dive on what's going on in Savage Rifts, who the hell this guy is down here, and all that good stuff, we're going to tell you what's going on in the rest of the Savage World. So obviously, news number one is the Savage Rifts Kickstarter. So that's the rest of the topic for this. But there's some other stuff going on in the Savage World. So Fox, why don't you lead us off? What, if anything, from the Savage news do you want to talk about?
A couple things. So Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, if you guys have been watching the Deadlands actual play, it is concluding this Thursday on Twitch. So you want to get over to the Pinnacle Entertainment Group to Twitch/Peg Inc. Is that right?
Yep. Twitch.tv/Peg Inc.
Yeah, and then the other...
That one's cool because the Chris Hussey, who's the game master there, has kind of written a nice little love note to another famous Deadlands property with some nose ferrets involved and some choo-choo. So if you are down on Deadlands lore, this is a nice little callback to a famous nocturnal conveyance series of adventures. Right. So John Goff gets shown some love in this one. So
yeah, and we'll get back to this one in a minute. We'll go to Deadwood in a second, but just seeing and look, I didn't get to read the blog yet, but I don't know if any of you are Monster Hunter International fans, Larry Correa fans, but he just recently ran. I'm can't believe I'm saying it, a game for 17 players.
That's insane.
It's nuts. That's crazy. And
yeah, I haven't. I've only heard very positive things about the series.
Yeah, and I love Monster Hunters International. I love the book series. I think it's a great book series. Having read the RPG, it's great. It's looks like it would be a lot of fun. But 17 people, and so he wrote a blog. Giving how he did it,
show me the way.
A tip for running for 17 people, and it was set in Cairo in 1936, so it's a pulp adventure. So you can go over to his blog, which is Monster Hunter Nation. He's got a short video up there, lots of photos. To me, that's just remarkable to be able to run that kind of a table and keep people.
The most I've ever done is 10. I mean, that was a convention where it was like we had a game master who didn't show, and I'm like, come play, sit at my table, and I ran.
I think I've
run 2 tables of 5.
I think I've run 8.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That was crazy. So so if you want some
tips, I think that's about where I've topped out at, but that was years ago, right? And just to make sure for me and other fans, so the same guy that wrote the books has also wrote the Savage Worlds version. Am I picking up that correctly, or is it written by someone else, or is he just running his own game? I think
he was just running his game in it. I can't. I'm horrible. I can't remember. I don't think Larry wrote it.
Okay. I just want to make sure I got it correct.
Yeah.
But that's great. I mean, that's something to check out because I've heard great things about the novels. I've heard great things about the Savage Worlds version. I've been in my own little Rifts world, but and some Deadlands recently, a lot more Deadlands than I used to play. But that's cool, man. That'd be great advice for any game master, right?
Yeah. No. So the Ace licensee Gallant Knight Games is the one who licensed and put out Monster Hunter International for Savage Worlds. So that's what Alan Bear and Steve Long are the ones who wrote it. And
okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Glad you're up on this stuff, Chris.
Yeah, Alan is really prolific and it's got some really cool licenses. There's another one that he did that I think was like the what they call it, the something mage, where it's like they're gun mages and they have like black powder and it's kind of French Regency.
That sounds awesome.
It's cool.
There's so much great Savage World stuff out there. It's hard to keep it all.
Powder Mage.
Powder Mage, yes. Yeah, and then I think they also did like Saga and Six Guns. So he's been really on top of like licensing and all that kind of stuff. So that's such good stuff.
For those of you guys who are watching, next time we're going to talk about, I'm going to let Chris talk about this since he's done a ton of work on it. But I don't know if you can see my hat, but add a saloon number 10 from Deadwood. And so we might have some Deadwood news.
Yeah, so Fox is the one who got us into this whole mess by actually having friends. And so 2 years ago, one of your friends, who's a professor at the college, the Go Yellow Jackets, right? And invited you, and then you brought me along to go speak about gaming as kind of a lecture, as a college lecture. And so we went up there and talked about gaming and publishing and community building and kind of all the stuff we do with the Rocky Mountain Savages and getting published and that kind of stuff. And that was a great time. We got to hang out with like the gaming club up there, which is some really fun kids. And
got to do some role playing, some board gaming.
Right, we invaded their we went like we did the lecture, and then we did like their game night, and then we were in like the library getting in trouble for playing like board games way too late in the night. And
they actually had to kick us out of the library. They're like, all right, guys, what was it? It was like after 11 o'clock, and they're like, okay, it's pretty much we're closing. You guys need to go. And then we spent probably another 15 minutes just slowly getting our way and leaving the library. And then we went outside and talked for a little while. So. It was a lot of fun.
So and because of that, I mean, we went and saw Devil's Tower. We went to go see Rushmore and all the kind of fun stuff around Deadwood. And we knew right then that like we got to bring the Savages up here and game here. It's too thematic, too enigmatic, too much fun.
I'm really stoked about it. Yeah.
Right. And so, it's really taken off. And obviously we had to delay a bit because of COVID. So it's a little weird because the before COVID in the BC times, the long
times.
Oh God, I love that movie.
I've been calling it BC and PC. So before COVID and post COVID.
Oh yeah, right. And that fits in more than one way, right? Too, like we're very PC now, and it's not. Anyways, so we had to delay. So it was cool because we just came off the Savage cruise. We're like, hey, the next thing is going to be Deadwood, and then it just became increasingly obvious that there was not going to be group gatherings of any kind of size. And
we really wanted to do it for a long. We took a long. Well, I wouldn't say we took a long time to make the decision to cancel, but we took a lot longer than a lot of other conventions and things. We were really hoping that we could make it happen, and it just, you can hope and hope and hope, and it just was like it just wasn't gonna happen. But
we thought it was gonna be 6 weeks to flatten the curve. I mean, so there's things like that change, and you see the situation. It's a very fluid thing that's difficult to predict. So anyhow.
Well, so it's fun. So we're back, and so it's weird because we're now that we're on the other side of it, we haven't come just off of a cruise to promo Deadwood. Now we've got Deadwood and a cruise to promo. So for those of you out there who want to get back to face-to-face gaming, we've got Deadwood for you, which is coming up. It's the August.
19th through 22nd.
And that's a Thursday through a Sunday. Yep. And the badges are on sale now. They're on the Pinnacle website. I think I'll go and find a link and I'll toss it in the comments. But you can go to pegging.com or go to the news. The news has got a link to it too. And
there's a great brochure that Landauer did that will give you so much information about what we have planned.
Yeah, so if you want to looking at like what our gaming looks like, so we have access to our gaming space all weekend long, and we're infamous for doing ad hoc, spur of the moment gaming. But for Deadwood for this. We're doing a little more structure than we normally do. So we're planning 5 planned game sessions, and then a big chunk of Thursday we're kind of just taking into town. We're going to some of the cultural sites. We're going to go take in some of the Bang Bang Shoot 'em Up presentations. Go take in one of the longest running stage plays, which is the trial of Jack McCall. After we go see Wild Bill Hickok get shot. We're doing like a Friday morning. We're doing a tour, a underground candlelight tour of a gold mine. Obviously, Deadwood's famous for being a gold town, and so we're trying to get as much of like let's go do Western fun, celebratory stuff, and then get some gaming stuff in as well. And check that out. The Expedition Deadwood 2021. The brochure has got basically information on like what our gaming schedule looks like. How to get to the airport to Deadwood, what hotel we're staying at. We have reserved rooms at the Holiday Inn Express and then the hotel right across the street, the Gold Dust. You don't have to stay there. If you can find a better deal or you want to come up and bring your RV and stay at a campsite or you're going to do an Airbnb or whatever, you're not beholden to us or any kind of room block. We have a room block that you can get access to. I'm not sure if that's filled up or sold out already because we did do a big push today. But so there's options on rooms. I know we have friends who are staying at some of the other kind of cool. There's like Victorian era hotels and and B&Bs and kind of fun stuff in town. So if you want to bring the family, make a weekend of it, it's going to be a really great time. I'm super excited. I'm super excited to just see people again. But also, yes. I mean, Deadwood's a cool town. It's a fun town. You've got the casino and gambling stuff if that floats your boat. But it's also just really kind of down to earth, mountainy. When you get out of town, you can definitely feel that like this is the part of the world where like Dances with Wolves is filmed. I mean, just the way Colorado is very alpine, but it looks different there. I mean, there's just something about the grasslands and the trees and the.
I've never been there. I'm looking forward to it a lot. That sounds awesome.
It's really
so I've seen a lot of Western territory. I used to live out in Colorado. I've been up to Utah. A bunch of my family's up in Oklahoma. So I've seen a lot of the West, right?
Right, and Utah and Colorado are so dramatic, right? They're very dramatic Western. Like Utah, like anywhere, like you got from like Goblin Valley to Moab, that whole bit is just super amazing, kind of natural, natural architecture kind of thing. I mean, the arches and the red sandstone and just kind of some really. This is different. I mean, it's
sounds really neat.
It's really cool. So check that out. Download the brochure. Buy your ticket. Kids who aren't drinking age can come play for free because we're totally about bringing in the next generation of players. But yeah, grab your badge, and then anyone who grabs a badge, we are going to start opening up actual signups. So not only for game submissions for game masters, and then obviously once those come in, for players to start signing up for the games they want to play in, but also for all the there's some of the things that we're going to go do that are like limited. So like on the night we're all going to go to the trial of Jack McCall, the theater can only hold 30 of us. So that night there's only 30 that are really going to be able to come. If you miss the first night, they do repeat performances on the other nights. But we want you to kind of be gaming at that time. So first come, first serve. Get in line for some of the limited stuff. Deadwood's going to be a blast. It is all the cool stuff from like the TV show to just the legends of Calamity Jane and Wild Bill Hickok and Al Swearingen. Oh my God, I love Al Swearingen is like my spirit animal. And
Mount Moria was amazing. You wouldn't think how is the cemetery amazing? It was just not like nothing I'd been to. I mean, it's on the side of a mountain, and when Chris and I were there, we walked. Whose grave was it that we walked up to?
Bullock. So yeah. Yeah, the close.
That was a hike.
It was. It really went right. They're like, there's a little trail over here you could take it. And no, it was like a half an hour later. And we're like, oh my God, we're so fat. And
we're dying.
I know.
But we did it. We did not turn back.
It's cool. I mean, you get a great view of the city. And there's really, not to be morbid, but Deadwood itself has got some really interesting Old West ghost and horror history to it. And whether it's the plagues that came through, a flood, fires, it's pulpy for all that kind of stuff. So we're going to do ghost tours. We're going to, it's more than just a gaming event. It's really kind of fun. So I think next week, probably not Wednesday, but someday next week, we'll do a Q&A for the cruise and for Deadwood.
I think it'd be good. Have a specialized so that people can go check that out.
Right, so grab your badges. John Dew mentioned Ian McShane. So if you haven't seen the Deadwood series, Ian McShane, you've seen him from Mr. Wednesday from the American Gods, and he was one of the bigger characters in the new John Wick movies. Not the role-playing John Wick.
He was also in Game of Thrones.
For a little bit, for a hot second.
Just a little bit.
He could have been so, this is one of those. The dude already had an amazing thespian track record, award-winning. A lot of it from Britain. But this is one of those roles where it's like Patton, why can't I just the actor who played Patton? Anyways, this is one of those
George C. Scott.
George C. Scott. Yes, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Every once in a while, Fox just pulls them out of the air.
Well, we have like a symbiotic brain,
Right. So yeah, just like George C. Scott is to Patton, Ian McShane is to Al Swearingen. I mean, he just embodies this character, and he's kind of the roguish anti-hero. It's great. It is a fantastic series. Him in it is really, he makes it, and it's fantastic. So come join us. Come play at the table with us. Come see Shane. One really exciting thing that is we spoiled before. Man, I didn't do it. It was Carl Kiesler who spoiled the next two Kickstarters months and contents, which is not next month, but the month after is Supers. And not the month after that, but the month after that, it's going to be Holler. So October and September? No, June, July. Let's see, what is where? June, August and October. August and October are the next two Kickstarters. But there's a NDA Q&A during Deadwood where literally it's the non-disclosure agreement question and answer panel where no phones, no cameras. We're trying to do something really special for that Q&A. But yeah, Shane's gonna drop some cool secrets. So we're gonna
awesome.
we're gonna liquor Shane up and get him to spill the beans. But that one's
excellent.
There's some cool stuff brewing there, and so yeah, you guys, and then that's it's happening at Deadwood, and then what stays there happens there stays there. So that's enough for that bit of news. So come to Deadwood, enjoy us. You can actually meet the Roberson. Right, like play Rifts games too. It's not just Deadlands, it's 25th anniversary Deadlands, but
it's a pinnacle celebration, right? So yeah,
it is.
And real quick before we forget, because I know it's time to get on to Rifts, but the Doomtown folks are going to be there. So if you've never played Doomtown,
awesome, yeah, good card game, yeah.
You can learn to play Doomtown. If they're going to have a bunch of Doomtown players, it sounds like, so you can get into some Doom tournaments. I'm going to get in. I don't know if I'm going to do a tournament, but I'm going to play some Doomtown because I spent a lot of money on those cards.
Right, and there's going to be exclusive cards. They are doing some really cool swag.
They're doing all kinds of cool stuff. Awesome. So, all right. Well,
other than that, like real quick, the Pathfinder for Savage Worlds stuff is now being released. So if you amazingly missed that Kickstarter, check out Pinnacle's website that you can pick up the PDFs.
And didn't they just announce that a lot of the PDFs are considered final?
Yeah.
So if you've been really jonesing to print your stuff, if you're not getting the hard copies, or if you just want to print your stuff before you get your hard copies, some of that stuff is now ready to be printed.
And likewise for the Flash Gordon, I think all the people who had already backed Flash Gordon have gotten their digital files. So if you want to get in on the Flash Gordon Moons of Mongo, you can still go to the exact same link we've been using on Game on Tabletop, and you can be a late backer there and get your stuff pretty much immediately. So that's very cool. Hotness. And then other cool thing that there is as long as we're talking Deadlands, and then if you take like Deadlands and then like Event Horizon and that really funky movie with Outland with like Sean Connery. There's a really cool adventure. It's called Widowmaker, and that is now on Fantasy Grounds, which also means it's on Steam. So if you are the VTT type and want more content to run Lost Colony, that is now out. I'd like someone to play that for me, please. I don't want to run it. I want someone to I want to play in it. So
and a lot of that Lost Colony stuff, just for the Rifts fans out there. Man, I mean, you might want to pump up some of the encounters because Rifts is pretty high powered. But depending on what kind of campaign you're playing, you may not need it. But I mean, that's the whole point of Rifts. You go through a rift in time and space, and boom. So you could easily use a lot of those adventures in your Rifts game to do something out that might be a little out there that your players aren't expecting. Right, a little twist to throw at them. But Deadlands Lost Colony is very cool. Very, very cool. So definitely check that out.
I think so. Yeah, with all that being said, I think it's time to play our little intro and then spend the rest of the show grooving in the riffs of Atlantis. So let's see. Let's play it. Let's do the intro. 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Coming to you from the foot of the majestic Rocky Mountains, Denver, Colorado, it's the SavageCast, a Savage Worlds podcast brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Savages. Here are your hosts, Chris Savage Mummy Fox and Christopher Savage Bull Landauer.
Wait, what happened?
Where'd
he go? Where'd he go?
Lost him.
Oh, wait! Boom! Welcome back.
There he is.
With my internet.
I think you're just mad that the promo image I put out for this also included all the silly faces as much as possible that I could find for you. I promised. I was like, oh yeah, I'll use the image you sent me, the nice little corporate, headshot. But yeah, I also had to throw in.
I also sent you the one with me and the Stormtrooper.
That went out this morning, so that's yes.
Yeah.
You
from Genghis Khan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, Genghis Khan was awesome. That was such a great memory. But yeah, hey Jody, how's it going? Glad to have you here.
So man, the congratulations! I think it's over $60,000.
It's
already.
At 63,000, and we've got almost 800 backers.
And even more important, the 800 backers. That is a great.
That's
number.
what for me. The number of fans, because sometimes you're going to have a Kickstarter that maybe has, like with the American Armageddon, there was just so much stuff that we were putting out there for people. We also had really great deals, but this one also has a ton of great deals and awesome. Yeah, no, 795 backers exactly. Thanks, 23 Jesse. Yeah, it's just like, dang, that really means a lot to me as a designer and a writer and a line editor, trying to manage and steer this ship to have that kind of excitement from the fans, because that says too, to me, if this happens in the first day, we're obviously easily going to break 800 backers. To me, that says, hey, we're maybe going in the right direction for the fans and what they want, right?
I completely agree.
And it's hard because with Rifts, there's so much. There's 30 years of material already in print. Which part of the world do we hit first? And so I very carefully consider what we can do because people want all of it right now, right? But we gotta take our time, and we want to do it right. We don't throw out anything that's sloppy, right? And this is all Kevin loves this stuff too. This is all Kevin approved. Savage Rifts is Rifts, right? So 109 PA, mid 109 PA, all the books line up with the Palladium Rifts canon. And so that's one of the things that I'm really excited about, is to see the fan response to all the great art too. Besides the content and writing, I mean, people haven't seen a lot of the new writing, right? They've seen old stuff I've worked on, right? And the response from some of the early proofreaders and friends that of the family that have read it. So, yeah, I'm super excited.
So, tell us a little bit for people who don't know much about Atlantis and what this book is all about. So give us a little rundown on what's the book about, what are they getting for people who might not have heard of this before.
Well, and the first thing I want to also talk to is that we have some fans that are new to Rifts, and so I will point you guys. I want to throw this in our little thing, and maybe you can share it with the fans, Chris. But we created a PDF, or I created a PDF, and the team helped me out to polish it up and everything. But we've got a PDF that you can go download for free if you don't know what Rifts is, or if you have friends that want to learn about Rifts, right? And that's a Geek Native article, right? They did us a real solid and put that out there. But there's a link right to the Pinnacle site. You can download that, check it out, and you can find out what Rifts is. But long story short, Rifts is post-apocalyptic superheroes, battling to save Earth as it's being invaded from uncontrolled magic energies that link it to countless other realities and dimensions. And that's why it's called Rifts, is it's the rifts in space and time. So it sounds like a real genre mashup, and a lot of people love that because that means you can make any kind of character you want. You can tell any kind of story you want. But the reason Rifts is still here 30 years later, and it's still running strong, right? And we also have the Savage Worlds license version of it, right? And so the reason it's still here is because of a cohesive interesting, like really compelling narrative that binds that world together and makes each region something really special. I say this a lot. I think Kevin, it's his brainchild, right? Kevin Simbita. And I think that one of the amazing things that he's been able to do, and the collaborators with him, is that they've created a world where one of the world books is enough to, in any other RPG, it could have been an entire standalone RPG. And so when you're playing through Rift's Earth, there's just so much to see. There's so much detail. It's so vibrant. And so what we've got here, though, and what we try and do with our source books that are set in 109 PA, which is kind of like a standard timeline, because when Palladium developed it over 30 years, their timeline started in 101 post-apocalyptic, 101 years after the Great Cataclysm, the apocalypse, and they slowly step forward. And the years have gone up to now, I think they're at 110 PA, moving into 111. And so, but what we've done is we've set a timeline, a baseline, before it really maybe starts diverging, because Savage Rifts is going to be a slightly divergent timeline, or greatly divergent timeline. But that's one of the interesting things that we bring to the table for people that are Rifts fans or are new to the world, is it's very accessible. It's very easy to get into. You read our books, you get a great idea of what's going on. Old fans love them because instead of going and rereading 20 books, they can look at one of our books and also see the timeline updates that we've coordinated with Kevin. And so it's all canon. It's right there for you. In this Atlantis and the Demon Seas book, as the core part of the Atlantis Rising Kickstarter, there's two different things that we've got. We've got something that I think fans of all stripes are going to be really excited about, and that is a pawn set, a mega pawn set, right? We're creating the team, Jody and Simon are making sure that we've got all the details, because we're actually expanding the pawn box size so that we can fit a ton of pawns, 50% more, I think, than the other sets. The sets were previously 8 sheets of die cut pawns. This one's going to have 12 sheets, because it includes all the stuff to get you running in North America, from the original core set of 3 books, like Tomorrow Legion Player's Guide, Savage Foes in North America, right, Game Master's Guide, and Handbook, and then we also have 4 of those sheets are dedicated to the pawns you need to run your stuff from Atlantis. And Atlantis is so core, and a lot of the enemies and allies are so core to the Rift's experience that, I mean, it's a super fit for that core basic pawn set. Because Atlantis and the Demon Seas, and just a little more about the book, it covers Atlantis, but it also covers all the stuff you need to play a campaign on the high seas or the underseas, right? Sequest DSV. But underwater Star Trek if you want, because we've also got the new Navy. They're the legacy of the United States Navy. With their flagship is a submersible aircraft carrier. So you've got these awesome Navy troopers running around with the American flag still on their patch on their shoulder. 300 years after the apocalypse happens, because there's 200 years of Dark Ages, and then they start the new post-apocalyptic calendar. And then you've also got the Lemurians, which is an underwater race that's kind of the cousins of the Atlanteans. They've modified themselves through the science of magic to be a little bit more than just human, right? And then you've also got the true Atlanteans, which fled the ancient continent of Atlantis when it had its own magical cataclysm, which shut off Rift's Earth from magic. So their cataclysm shut Rift's Earth off from magic, but then when the Great Cataclysm happened thousands of years later, it brought magic flooding back to Earth, just to help catch some people up on the plot point, the lore there. But yeah, we've also got tons of enemies, right? So we've got all the major stuff that you're going to expect to find in Atlantis, like the Splugor minions. So you've got like the Katani, which are 8 men that are aliens that specialize in technology. You've got the Kaidians and their Power Lord and Overlords, which are their different ranks as the enforcers of the Splugor, the High Lords. You've also got the Rune Pirates, which they are worldwide ocean-faring pirates that help fuel this Atlantean, or I should say the Splugor Atlantean slave trade, because what the Splugor are doing, they're super evil. They control the continent of Atlantis, and the citizens of their empire are all demons and monsters. Humans are seen as humans and mortals are seen as playthings. So they run an interdimensional slave trade, and they see Rift's Earth as a gold mine. They don't want to conquer it. They just want to keep, abducting all the different races and dimensional, beings from different dimensions that they can, and sell them on the interdimensional marketplace. They also have a massive interdimensional market. So in the whole Rift's megaverse, this is like the core place where a lot of cool stuff goes down. So it's a really
evil,
neat book.
Mega evil.
They're mega evil, right? I mean, they're Cathar.
Yes.
The Splugor themselves are a tentacly giant, one eyeball, whole bunch of tentacles, a chthonic enemy, a godlike enemy. The one that Splinkrant that rules Atlantis. He actually controls multiple worlds. Atlantis is like his vacation home.
And is that one of them that's on the cover?
No, so but one of their very feared minions on the cover, and it's an iconic cover, is the Splugor Slaver. So okay. They're kind of synonymous. A lot of people on Rift's Earth, it's the post-apocalypse, so people don't know a lot of facts. They don't have the internet, right? And so that's what they think of as the Splugor, these tentacled beings that their body is melded with a magic floating barge, and floating eyeballs that look around. So the Splugor are masters of a few different weird ancient magics, but one of them includes biowizardry, which is where they take some living magical being and combine it with other objects. Sorry, not biowizardry. Thanks for the correction. Biomancy. Biowizardry is, no, it's not biomancy. It's biowizardry. Biomancy is what the Lemurians use. So, so the biowizardry is really evil. Biomancy, which is coming in our next major source book, South America, that is more of a very positive, wholesome magic that uses living beings, biomancy. But biowizardry is very evil. Like they'll trap a sprite inside a gun, and that's how you fire. It's you might fire a water nymph or something. You might that's how you shoot a ray of water out of a magic gun. And so it's really, really evil stuff. We have biowizardry, we have tattoo magic, and we also have the rune weapons, which are weapons of a massive power. I mean, just to give you an idea, if you're a Savage Worlds player, wielding a greater rune weapon is like punching things with a heavy laser cannon out of the core Savage Worlds book. It's like a tank cannon, right? And so there's some really, really, really powerful stuff in here. There's also the Splugor, as part of their biowizardry, they have symbiotes and things like that that you can attach to your body, that are these different organisms that will give you powers and abilities, but it's all kind of gross, right? And they even have transmutation that they can do and alchemically mutate people. So there's all kinds of really cool, weird, dark stuff in this book. And we're really excited for everybody to get a hold of it. But I just want to make sure everybody understands, it's Atlantis as Atlantis, but it also gives you this wide breadth of other stuff that you can get anywhere on the whole goal is anywhere you want to go on Rift's Earth after this. You want to leave North America, you can get there, because this book gives you not just the different thematic stuff, but also the gear and warships and plot reasons to get to other places.
So I learned during the interview we did recently with you and Kevin Zambita, and you can check that out on our video on demand for the folks who are watching us on Twitch, and we'll have that up on our YouTube. But there's a G word. We don't use the G word with Rifts. So tell me what are better words to describe Rifts if not Gonzo? Why is Gonzo a weird word, and what's a better way of looking at Rifts?
I mean, Gonzo's a weird word. You can go look that up on the internet yourself if you want to. But the kitchen sink is one way to put it that some people put it. Gonzo's another way. I mean, it does express, in some ways it's positive, and then it expresses kind of the power level of things that can happen, and the wide variety of things that can happen. But I think that a lot of things that people may not see if they just hear that is they don't understand that there's a super interesting, thriving, living world that makes sense. When you go read Atlantis, you read about the Lemurians, you read about the New Navy, you read about the Not-Yol invaders, underwater, and a race of underwater invaders, the Rune pirates, right? The High Lords, the hierarchy within the Splugor's dominion, right? Within Splunkrant's dominion and his servitor and thrall races, you're going to see that there is a fully fleshed out world with cultures and all of this, and they all come into clash, and it's super interesting and compelling. I mean, sure, I love Rifts. I mean, that's obvious, but again, I think that's why it's here 3 decades later, and why fans are going rabid. We're about to hit 800 people that have pledged to this Kickstarter, and I expect more. And so I think that's what really keeps people there. And so I think that for me and Kevin and I've had this Kevin Simbita, the creator of Rifts, and I've had this conversation. We think that's what people are coming back for. And so that's one of the things that I really focused on in this book is, so Atlantis was the second world book that ever came out, right? So that was very early 90s. Then you have books that came out decades apart, or 1 or 2 or maybe more decade, apart. And so what we've done in this book is I've worked really hard to integrate these ideas so that you can naturally see the connections that were already written in there without having to go read 600 or 800 pages of material to catch all the little notes here and there, right? So it should be very digestible and easy for a game master to jump in. The Savage Tales, we have Savage Tales for each major section of the book. We also have I hope people enjoy it, a really heroic plot point campaign. It's a slave uprising against the Atlantean oppressors, and I should say Splugor oppressors. And so, yeah, and it's with Spartacus. That's what the campaign is called. We've got great art. Nice. I mean, obviously, the guy that's leading the rebellion isn't Spartacus, but he knows who Spartacus is. He's a true Atlantean that's taking on that persona in order to lead, and inspire something. And so the players, whether you're running, and with Rifts for Savage Worlds, we assume you're running with the Tomorrow Legion, right? But for any Palladium fans, you can very easily introduce your players into and use our adventure material. We have a lot of Palladium fans that love our adventure material and have given us really positive feedback about using it in their games. So that's something really cool there that you can bring to the table too. I also want to mention that another big thing we have with this is we have an entire tier on the Kickstarter that is the Palladium Fan Tier. So if you want to get in and you just want to enjoy the maps and the really great figure flats, right? That Kevin is very positive and gave us the opportunity to do that because he just doesn't really have the bandwidth to handle that. He'd rather focus on putting out new releases of books for his, I think, 12 IPs that he has.
It's great that he's willing to let us do that.
It is. I'm so appreciative of the cooperation. There have been some Rifts minis, as 23 Jesse mentions here, in the past, but they're expensive. They're maybe hard to get in stock. I haven't tried to buy any lately, but you know what I mean. But with this, for very, 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 I really am a fan of our pawns. We've already done them for Deadlands and Flash Gordon.
Oh, they're amazing.
Right. And so for we've got, and actually you get a little bit of a discount, but I wouldn't say discount, but it's a good deal. We have a good deal for you in the Kickstarter. But you've got this set that's around $40, and you're getting a pile of over, I think it's 12 sheets. I think it's over 150 pawns, at least. we're lowballing it because we want to be careful, but because and not everything's final yet. Some of the art's still in process, right? But it's a great value, and it can get you really off to the races, whether you're playing Palladium Rifts or Rifts for Savage Worlds. We also have, as part of that set, 2 combat maps. And each one is double-sided. So one of the combat maps is a ruined city. They would be great for any post-apocalyptic campaign, any war-torn campaign. But, it's specifically made for Rifts. And then, so it's not going to have anything that conflicts with that, right? And then we also have, on the flip side, there's a ramshackle settlement of, that you'd expect from something out of a lot of your post-apocalyptic fiction. in it, the other map pack that I'm really excited about, and it also really helped to run your plot point campaign that I wrote up, is a Atlantean magic stone pyramid. So in Rifts, stone pyramids harness the natural energies, magical energies flowing across the earth called ley lines. And where they meet, it's a nexus point. So you put a stone pyramid on that, you can control that energy. It's not going to suddenly flare up and tear open into a rift, which is kind of the explanation of how rifts happen in the setting. So instead, these are new, pristine. One side is a new, pristine pyramid with beautiful gardens. And on the reverse side is the internal structure of the pyramid. So you can actually, role play or battle through the pyramid itself. And these appear all over in the Rift setting and even in other dimensions, right? So this is something you can use for a lot of games. I think both of these map packs are going to be really, really killer for any fan of Rifts. Lastly, along with that, and with a bunch of other, I think all the other pledge levels, essentially, we have and those are 24 by 30 maps that are laminated, right? They're good cardstock. They're laminated. They should last a long time. They're perfectly sized for using with our pawns. And then you've also got an 11 by 17 map of the Atlantean continent, with a legend, all the cities plotted out, hexes, mile markers, right? So you can track your campaign as your players move across Atlantis. On the flip side of that is that really stunning art that Aaron Riley did for the cover. So we're going to have, on the flip side is going to be the cover art that people are asking for. So.
Yeah, and to answer Caliban's question, because this came up in our earlier stream, we kind of talked about the theory behind the pawn set is that there's a whole lot of backlog of Rifts, heroes and monsters and characters and names, that we can still go through. And so this is the Rifts pawn set 1, which includes a bunch of North American assets and then also the Atlantean assets. And so it's a really nice box set. But one of the theories behind kind of how Jess and Simon designed it is that they put multiples. So kind of in the mooks and the bad guys and the ones where you expect to find, at an encounter with multiple, they put multiple on a sheet. But you will find value in buying more than one set if you really kind of want to bulk up the numbers of the kind of the battles and the scale you find. So you can get multiple sets and not it won't be a bad investment.
No, I and that's a great question, Caliban 23. We had this earlier in the interview we did earlier today, right? There was a lot of questions about that. So just to quickly review, anybody that's seeing this and hasn't seen the other one, one of the things that we worked really hard is to take that art that's going to get you off to the races. Just like the Savage Foes of North America was a good cross-section of what you could run into in North America for Rifts for Savage Worlds, right? And in the other books now, we're diving into, like, if you want more about vampires and Zytikic, that's Blood and Banes, right? If you want more about Magic Zone type stuff, that's Arcana and Mysticism. If you want more about the Coalition's, Crusade for Humanity era, in body armor and new weapons and robots, that's Empires of Humanity. So this set doesn't cover those 3 books. Okay, we're trying to cover those basics, like the classic stuff. So for instance, we have a lot of things are coming in 5s, and that's the most that any one pawn is coming in 5s so far. I mean, this is all in the works. A lot of this we're filling it out with new artwork to make sure that you can get what you need to run on the tabletop. Artwork that wasn't already present in books, for instance. For instance, there's going to be 5 old style Coalition, classic style Skelelots. There's going to be 5 classic style Dead Boy Troopers, Coalition Dead Boy Troopers. One of them is a sergeant, which we already had some really cool art for that. And then we have 3 grunts, right? 3 infantrymen that have the C-12 laser rifle. And then we have 1 gunner that is armed with a C-27 plasma cannon. And so because this isn't Star Wars, right? So the coalition troopers actually show up with tactics, command, and I love Star Wars. But they have mixed squads, just like a modern infantry squad, right? So you can easily represent a lot of that on the tabletop. We've got like a Mark V APC top down, so you can lay it and it takes up the room it needs to on the battle map, on the combat map. We've got power armor, robots, all types of stuff. But there's 5 Zytikic warriors. There's 5 vampires, I believe, 3 or 5 vampires. So wild vampires. So you'll have what you need to get rolling. But in games that I've played in, I've fought 20 Scalabots, 10 coalition troopers. They had a Mark V APC and 2 robot vehicles. So So if you want that much, right, we've only been able to fit on these sheets, for instance, 1 of the big robots because they take up a lot of space. But we try and give you that variety. So buying multiple packs will help you to really expand what you're able to put on the table, if that's the numbers that you're looking for. So
you can never have enough minis.
I know.
Kind of like that, right? At least you don't have to, take these out of the sprues and glue them and prime them and paint them and all that kind of junk.
They are on the table fast.
These are ready to go straight onto the table, and that's the beautiful. And they're great. They're careful. They're all laser cut. It's all custom for each pawn, and also any of the ones that it's appropriate on the back side, they have different art, so you can see which way the pawn is facing. Okay. We've also worked really hard to carefully size them. So as the size category goes up, as their size and mass goes up, they're carefully the sizes for the pawns are carefully chosen so that it's visually, it feels right on the tabletop. So it's a great time to be a Rifts fan, because getting this stuff on the table, I think, is going to be great for any Palladium or Savage Worlds Rifts fan.
So if you want to turn it up to 11 or 10, you need to get 2 sets. And it's pretty easy to do. So Kickstarter's done some new features that we've just taken advantage of for the first time in this Kickstarter. Add-ons are now a thing inside the Kickstarter, not just in a pledge manager. And so we got a question from John Doom asking about the VTT. So interestingly enough, so the VTT has been very popular for us. A lot of people are really going out. I'll keep it up there. Going after the VTT assets. So instead of complicating the tiers on what pledge levels you have to get in if you want to get to the VTT, anybody who wants to add VTT assets can just add them on as an add-on to any of the pledge levels. And so great idea.
Well, right? They can. Well, to clarify, and the earlier video we also had Jody on, we're probably going to put together a FAQ because we're getting a lot of questions about this. We tried to make it clear on the Kickstarter page, but I think we're probably going to end up doing something more to help people understand this. But what we have available in this Kickstarter is a do-it-yourself virtual tabletop bundle that you can add as an add-on, which apparently is after you actually go through the step of which tier you pledge at, then you can choose your add-ons. Some fans told me that was, it's the Kickstarter was the way they've arranged it, so confused a couple of them. But the thing to know about that is that that's different than we are going to be coming out with sets for the virtual tabletops that our virtual tabletop team support. And so that includes popular ones like Foundry and Roll20. That is all in the works. So if you want to wait and get that bundle later on, or that module later on when that happens, that's totally awesome. But if you want to get it now, something that's really easy to use with your favorite virtual tabletop, then this set is really going to be a great deal for you. And so that's what I would suggest that for. But there's a lot of info out there, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands that, this isn't the final stuff, the official support for the different virtual tabletops, because each of those handle their pricing models and all this different stuff very differently. And so that isn't happening yet. That's still all being worked on and in production.
Yeah, and Jim's got a good comment for those of us figuring out how to pledge for the first time with these new add-ons. And she mentions that when you modify your pledge, there's an add-on button, but you have to go and confirm the pledge, and then it sends you to the add-on menu that works.
Thanks, Jim. So,
I
appreciate that.
Appreciate you, Jim. Yes, and then I mean the cool thing here is like so we've had your friends stop by the streams from like back in college and some so now that Roberson is famous, but I name dropped a friend from middle school, Reese, during the Kevin Zambita, and he picked me and he saw the stream, and so I'm like, that's gaming full circle. Like Reese is one of the guys who got me into gaming, and I remember he had all the Rifts books and. So he's got a young kid now. He's just starting to teach about role play, and so I'm like the circle of life and all that stuff. But yeah, the Jason mentions that the Suede Kickstarter got him back with an old school friend, and then now they're planning for an Atlantis-based game. So that is awesome that the Rifts are bringing people together, not just driving realities apart. I don't know if it's that I'm famous, by the way. It's just that when I attended the University of Texas in Dallas, I was on the game design track. So obviously, like interests, somebody that I went to school with happened to be in the chat. So that was a lot of fun. Well, you made good on that, sir. Like that's you're definitely not one of those like, oh, I majored in blank and I've never used it a day since. Like,
well, guilty. I have two. I have 2 degrees and I haven't used either one of them.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I had gotten I have a degree in Mandarin Chinese culture, history, and language from the Defense Language Institute, and then so I'm not really using that right now actively. But I also got when I went back to school using the GI Bill, I got a graphic design, visual design degree, and then moved into a bachelor's degree for design and production, focused on games. So. But I knew I had a very strong feeling about what I wanted to do. After getting out of the Air Force, I was like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I was like, this is what I'm doing. So.
So what was it? Nishu Watapongyo? Is that, I'm sure
Nishu Watapongyo. That's you're my friend.
Yeah, there we go. See, look at this.
Wow.
Wow, look at that amazing Chinese, sir.
Right, everything else I know is profane.
Mandarin.
Everything is profane. Everything else I know is just inappropriate for streaming. And
So I got a couple of questions that I want to throw out to you.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to we'll call it Rifts Prime, the 3 core books. So
sure. The 3 core Savage Worlds books.
Savage Worlds books came out, and a little bit ago, I don't know how long ago, but you were pivotal in doing basically, I don't want to call it a second edition, but a reprint.
That's what we call it.
So what are the differences, or some of the main differences between the first and the second edition of those that people might know about?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, right? Because it's a funny thing is I love Rifts. I love Palladium books and their games. I mean, my gateway drug. I played some other stuff with my friends, but the first game I ever owned was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness. And then I got into their, Ninjas and Super Spies and their superhero stuff. And then Rifts came up, and Robotech. And then the Rift stuff came up, and I was like, I've been hooked for the rest of my life. But huge fan there. And so when I got back from the Air Force, actually, one of my buddies, really good buddy, was just like, hey, can you run Rifts? And I was like, we just didn't have the time, though. We were very busy with a lot of work, and we didn't have all summer to go sit down and play games, right? And so that's how I ended up finding Savage Worlds, was trying to do something similar, but that we could play in just a few hours, and get through a lot of story because people had very limited time. And so then, of course, the original design team did a bang-up job doing Rifts for Savage Worlds, and they did those 3 core books, and it went really great. I mean, really stellar stuff. Then I got involved with how I got in was I went to some conventions and run into these weird jokers at that all were from the same company, Pinnacle Entertainment, and so I got involved and submitted some adventures and some other material, and then they asked me to work on the Coalition book, which ended up being Empires of Humanity. And so I was also helping because I was the guy, like the old school Rifts fan on the team. I was the guy that was coordinating with Kevin on the art and a lot of that, which is, you got to get it right. He's picky, and he's right.
Yeah,
but that's how I got involved with that. And then we don't need necessarily like a huge group of people writing on this, although it does help to get products out faster in some ways. But we at the time we had 3 world books that were all being written at the same time: Canon Mysticism, Blood and Banes, and then Empires of Humanity. And those are, I mean, I don't know about Empires of Humanity, but the other books are really great. And so, but yeah, I helped. Shane asked me to help line edit that and also manage the transition, because this was right before the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, or SWADE, came out.
Right.
And so that at first I was just putting together a list of like, let's just put out a PDF that's a conversion PDF and people will be able to read it. Well, when I got to like, I think 60 pages in Microsoft Word, just this line, right? We decided, and Shane pulled the trigger and made the good decision, I think, to say it hasn't been, he doesn't like to, he's not trying to burn people with some new edition, right?
Right, exactly.
But Rifts for Savage Worlds came out towards the end of the life cycle for the deluxe edition, and SWADE was coming up. And since SWADE, so Rifts touches everything. It touches the horror rules, the science fiction rules, all the different stuff that people love about Savage Worlds. And it runs it ragged, right? So that was one of the things we wanted to do, was have Rifts be the first fully compatible adventure edition setting. And so it was tough, and I'm so glad that's about the time that he brought in Simon Lucas as the executive producer for Pinnacle. And so that we were able to do that. We brought those 3 books up to the adventure edition, which was pretty challenging, because there was a while where obviously you want to play test it and get feedback, right? And so we had done all these different things with, almost 192 pages. I'm just going to say 200 pages because it's about what we got here. So, 3 about 200 page books, about 600 pages of material. And it was like a lot of the rules stuff was in flux. And as most of the Savage Rifts fans know, a lot of what we put in this books is what you need to run it in Savage Worlds, right? It's a lot of mechanical stuff,
right?
Very heavy bestiary, very heavy character options, very heavy gear sections, right? And game master sections, and then plot point campaigns and Savage Tales. And so, we did bring all that up to it, and we also did a lot of updates for the Adventure Edition. I would say the real big differences is that the Adventure Edition with the magic system, for instance, brings in a lot of really, really cool ways that you can customize your powers, or I should say the power system, right? You can customize your powers, whether it's magic or psionics or your techno wizard or something else, right? And so you can use it for mutants, all types of things in Rifts. And so we really went full in on that to make sure that it was super SWADE, right? And the other thing is that a lot of little things had been rebalanced, right? Like some of the damage values for different weapons and tanks and things like that. And so that actually led to a lot of deep research on my part, trying to figure out and break apart, okay, how do I, streamline and make this damage curve? In Rifts, you have a lot of characters that are infantry, but they fight like a tank, right? Because they're in a power suit, they're in a power armor, they're a full conversion combat cyborg, or the guy standing next to him is a hatchling dragon, right? And so all that stuff needs to play together real nice. And so that was one of the things that we worked, Shane and Clint and Simon and I, and then a lot of great, thanks to the fans. Like Venatus Vinco is one of them, PK Levine, Johnny Racha, right? So there's a lot, and more. I could go on with names for actually a while, and they're in the books, right? We have them in the special thanks section, a lot of them, and players that play tested. And so a lot of that came into here, and we got the chance to take a look at what had been going on for 3 or 4 years with Rifts for Savage Worlds and take a fresh look at stuff. So some other things that got updated, the juicer is even more juicy, right? The ley line walker is even cooler, and bespoke. The mind melter, he's really the mind melter. That's real. That iconic framework they will melt your mind. I mean, they really embody that now. But we refined a lot of other things too. So that's some of the stuff that has gone, I think, really smashingly well. We've gotten, and since then it seemed to stand up the test. That we're getting a lot of positive feedback on all that stuff still. Excellent. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Chris.
Oh yeah, Jody says the juicer is even juicier.
That's right.
That's got to be a clip. We got to put that out there. Something
like a starburst.
And the other thing I will say too is when the original team worked on Rifts for Savage Worlds, their focus was on I wouldn't say the microcosm, but in the Rifts lens of things, it's a smaller focus, right? They were focused on, and I think very smartly, on the conflict between the Tomorrow Legion and then the Federation of Magic, which embodies like your high magic, and then the Coalition, which they hate magic, right? So they have a lot of high technology and gear. Excuse me. And I think that was a really smart way to frame it. But we realized when we got a lot of feedback too from the fans that some of the different hindrances that characters might have, or some of the language, we wanted to update it so that it would be more universal. So if you travel to another dimension or another part of the world, it's still clear what's going on. So we also kind of changed some of that framing. And some of my personal preferences, I always experienced Rifts as a very horror setting where you've got superhero. Kevin Sabina says it's superheroes in disguise, right? I mean, a glitter boy is like War Machine or Iron Man. A wizard, or I should say a mystic is much like maybe Doctor Strange or something. And so you have these really powerful characters, but they, just like with the Marvel setting, they need to fight like really dialed up opponents. You're fighting Cthulhu, and maybe you can't kill Cthulhu, but maybe you can banish him from your dimension for 1,000 years or something. And so that's in a lot of the Rift's lore. And so they call them alien intelligences, the old evils. And so that's one of the things that we really wanted to focus on as we move forward and expanded, because it really gives the heroes of the setting and the Tomorrow Legion and adventurers a focus and something that just like in Palladium Rifts, anyone who's familiar with that, that's the call of heroes. And so that we wanted to focus on that aspect to make sure that go big or go home. The stuff that you're going to do is always impactful on your game and your setting, right? Yep. Your version of Rifts. Every tabletop is every game is a different version of Rifts because everyone has their slight different take on all the possibilities. Right.
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing about it.
Oh, it's one of my favorite things. People tell me all types of stuff.
Every table's going to run different.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had guys tell me, in my game, I run the Coalition as this steampunk empire. Other guys will tell me, we did a, thriller noir detective story set in the Coalition capital of Chi-Town in the burbs surrounding it, the ramshackle shanty towns. And then other people are doing something that's very Cyberpunk 2077 or whatever, right? Like very Cyberpunk, where they're hacking and slicing into things inside Chi-Town or inside another fortress city, or in Germany or something, right? So there's all different types of areas, or you could go. There's also Japan. I can't wait to get there. But there's a lot of possibilities as just an example of different ways you could frame it in your campaign to play something totally different. And then the next week you could be playing in the New West, which is very much like Deadlands and dovetails with the Deadlands material.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the interesting things about Savage Rifts is that there's a big team has worked on it, right? There's been a lot of authors through PEG that have really kind of added to it. And I think one of the interesting things that as it's evolved, not only pre-Swade to post-Swade, and now we're getting into some really good chunky material. People have been waiting for Atlantis. I think Atlantis is one of the first, properties that people mentioned. Right. When Rifts was announced, that was one of the. I think it was one of the. In original Palladium, it was like the second world book. Even that was.
It was.
So
yeah, and the interesting thing is when, and we talked about this in our interview. Anybody if that hasn't seen it, go check it out. We had a really great interview with Kevin Sabita, Chris and I. But one of the things that we talk about, the original cover of Rifts is a picture of that Splugor Slaver and the Altaran warrior women. And so on in his barge and tentacles and all this craziness, and it's iconic. But the funny thing is, and Kevin said, I broke my cardinal rule, that on the cover isn't in the book. right? But I think in some ways it was genius though, because I mean it's an iconic cover by Keith Parkinson, but also it told you what was coming. Right, it let players know this is the potential. It's way more than just one book. And so when first there was the Vampire Kings World Book 1, and they had Source Book 1 that came out, and they came out with the Conversion Book, which was so you could bring superheroes and mutant animals and fantasy and futuristic stuff from the other Palladium stuff into Rifts. And then they hit Atlantis, and say one of the things about Atlantis though is that it blew up that cover, right? It wasn't just about the Splugor Slaver and the Atlantean Nomad. That was just the tip of the iceberg. And that's what I think is so cool about Atlantis. And you discover this huge society that makes sense, and it's scary. It's really scary. And if there's anything that's evil, it's evil. And so that's one of the things we've really tried to communicate in this book is that it's evil, there's horror, but also the heroes can take the fight to the bad guys. And it might require sacrifice, but it's worth it, right? And so that's one of the really great things about Rifts and Atlantis is that it can bring that to your game table.
So one of the things that a little meta here, because Jody's throwing some shade in the chat, which is hilarious. So yeah, Jody's surprised that you can still be talking after all this all day, plugging the Savage Rifts.
I'll be hoarse tomorrow.
Well, she was nice to you, all things considered. I mean, I think at the beginning, let me find the comment Jody dropped at the beginning. I'll give you a little background. Yeah, Landauer is looking a little weary. Been a long day for the bull. Thanks, Jody. So it has been like 13 hours.
Well, I mean, we've been working for this. It's not like this started today, right? I mean, the Kickstarter page just didn't appear, right? So it's been a real team effort. The entire team has been organizing things. We did an interview with Kevin that we recorded and we edited and then released. So Chris has been busy, right? Everybody's been shaking their booty getting this done. And so this is actually part of a sprint. This is just the sprint, I guess, towards the middle of the race where it starts to get interesting.
Right. Yes.
We're not to the finish line, that's for sure.
Oh no. So like 14 hours ago, there's a great little early morning tidbit from this morning. So we were planning so we did the last read through last night where we go through every line of Kickstarter, read it, everyone, we
read it out loud,
read it out loud. And then we're going to do it again in the morning, right? Just to make sure, because Kickstarter's a little funky about what you can edit afterwards. Just making sure it reads well. It's really presenting the game that we know. And oh no, Jody says I can't talk about it, right? Okay, so I'll talk a little bit less. So we planned. There's this thing with Arizona. Arizona does not respect the daylight savings time shift. So we always try to put times for Shane, but half the time he's California time, half the time he's like Colorado time. And so when Sean made the morning meeting, took an hour off. So it was very. Yeah,
I put the wrong time. I put the wrong time zone. And I screwed up the time for the meeting.
So the three of us were in there at like 7 a.m. and like you were like one eye open.
Dude, I was like.
Donald was in there. So and I was in there, right? And then
and you were in there,
right?
And I was like, oh dang it!
Right, and we're like, where are the adults in the room? There's no adults here. I pinged Shane and Jody with we need the link for the Kickstarter to get the Google ID, and oh my god, and they're like, what are you guys doing? I'm taking a shower. Like, stop. And I'm like, oh, did we get the time wrong?
My bad. Sorry, guys.
So an hour later, Jody shows up, all refreshed. She's got a brand new haircut, which looks fabulous. So, you did not look ragged this morning, Jody.
I got to say that comment that just got put in there. Nobody actually respects daylight savings time. We begrudgingly accept it.
That's true.
I'd say ban the whole thing. Is bane, one little bane in my existence.
I'm hoping they do.
So Jody was all refreshed. She said, "Good morning, everybody," and the three of us are like, "Oh, we've been here for an hour. What are we doing?" And yes, we agree with Jody. We should get beyond it. Anyway,
we got cooler stuff to talk about.
Right, it was fun this morning.
Let me throw out another question to you, real quick.
Yeah,
this is for a friend, and it's actually for a friend. I'll name drop my friend Jeremy. The first time I talked about Savage Rifts, his first question was, is there going to be a ludicrous mage?
A ludicrous mage?
He wanted a ludicrous mage. Do you know about the ludicrous mage?
I'm not familiar with the Ludicrous Mage. What
yeah, I think it was in one of the magazines that somebody from Rifter, and it's
Rifter.
It's this. They're like jesters,
right?
So their spells are like a rubber chicken shoots out at you, or things like. And I'm like, I don't know if that's going to be possible because it's not. I don't know that it's canon riffs.
Well, and it's not, and it's also the creation of fans. So just anyone that's listening that doesn't know what the Rifter is, Palladium, since very early in Rift's inception, has been putting out a quarterly supplement, a thin-bound quarterly supplement, and it's great. It's a lot of fun, right? But it's called the Rifter, and it's full of a lot of fan content or stuff to hit the cutting room floor that they're like, whatever, we'll just throw it in here, right? And it's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed a lot of them. I'm not one of those guys that's read all of the, like, I don't know, do the math, like 80 of them or something that have come out in the past 30 years, but or like 100 of them. So, but the main thing to remember is that, that's Kevin doesn't just own all that, right? From what I understand, but we don't. That's not part of our license. The other thing is it doesn't. A lot of it's fun. It doesn't necessarily cohesively mesh with the rest of Rifts. Some of it contradicts what you'll find in core books and the canon. Sure. So we stick to the canon world books and source books and other materials that Palladium puts out there. And we also try to avoid any unnecessary IP conflicts, just for the interest of everyone involved.
So I would say if you want to do one, you're going to have to figure it out.
So what I would say is if you want to do and I haven't read it, right? But you could go to the Savage Rifts Facebook group. I think that'd be a great discussion to have. You could post on our the official Savage Rifts the Pinnacle forums, and we have official Savage Rifts Castle Refuge forum that you could chat about that with fans. And I think that that'd be something fun to talk about. I personally, the preeminent caster in the setting is the Leyline Walker. So I would say start with a Leyline Walker, and maybe, depending on how you do your trappings for your different powers and spells, maybe take like the Wizard Edge, which lets you change your trappings for your powers. Work with your Game Master, so instead of the 4 elements, you've got Rubber Chicken or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think you could do it with core. I really do.
I do, and then I think the other thing is I check out Arcana and Mysticism, because there's also a series of edges called One with Magic, where you increasingly combine with magic in kind of ludicrous ways. So a character, you could really build out what they're able to do, and that's one of the things that I really like about Rifts for Savage Worlds is we start you with the baseline, some of the stuff that you might get out the box in Palladium because of the balancing, the way that Savage Worlds balances stuff with points values. Some of that is maybe you don't get right out the box, and it's not like you have a set level where you get it. It's an edge or an iconic edge that you can take. So that's another way to fill out those characters, and it's fun seeing them grow and change over time. So yeah, I think you could definitely do it. I mean, and if you have the right game master,
I love what Mike said, a Techno Wizard prop comic. I love it.
You could totally do that, right? And you could also, if you take the Conjurer Edge, right? Because, you can be a Techno Wizard and take the arcane background spell, magic spellcasting, right? And then you could get the Conjurer Edge, and now you're actually conjuring items. I mean, that could be fun.
So we do, so in just a few minutes, we just told people how to do a Ludicrous Mage. There you go.
Look at the service we provide to the world, people.
That's right.
Service.
Chat with the groups, and we'll talk about it. You'll get great ideas from the fans. We have, and I want to throw this out there again. How much I appreciate everyone. We have like the best fans. Kevin says it about the Palladium fans, but we inherited a lot of those fans that we share them with Palladium, right? So I just think we have awesome fans, and I love the community and the kind of things that they bring to the table with just fun discussions like this, right?
Yeah, I completely agree.
The Abuelo Sargar, love that one. Yes, Ludicrous Mage.
But the player has to wrap the spells. Hey, got to role play it, baby.
Right, but
awesome.
To me, that's one of the big takeaways of just watching how this has evolved, the partnership between Palladium and Pinnacle. I mean, we do literally have a Palladium pledge for all the Palladium fans to be able to, that they can get in and get all the kind of awesome assets that Pinnacle's doing for this. And play it in the Palladium Rift system. The trust, I think a lot of the what came out to me in our first interview with Kevin is that he's letting us play in his sandbox, and there's been some reciprocity there. I mean, when you talk about this, but like the Savage Rifts is Rifts, and the Tomorrow Legion that everybody kind of knows from whether it's the Twilight Legion or whatever. It's kind of a common thread amongst Pinnacle properties that is entering into Rifts canon, and so that's just a great little bit of permanent sharing of IP crossover that's happening. To me, that's very cool, man. I think it goes to show that the as fans of Rifts, we want to do right by the property, and Kevin has been amazing in the trust and letting us do that. So, that's just a really cool bit of showing where we are in this. I mean, this isn't, like you said, even on the Kickstarter, right? Like the Kickstarter just launched, but we're in the beginning of the middle. I think that's kind of very much similar to where this is as far as the partnership between Palladium and Pinnacle, is that there's a lot more Rifts to do. There's more advancing the timelines to be done, and more world books to kind of bring into Savage Worlds. So this isn't nearly over, and there's going to be this partnership going on for years that will really bring more content to the table, more stuff to explore. So I think that's just very exciting. I think that's it's a testament to what the prior writers, but especially what you've done, Sean, and just how much that relationship has been able to kind of blossom here, and that's really cool. Just seeing that kind of thing. We commented off screen before that it's funny in the RPG industry that people think we're sports franchises, and so there's like secret,
what did Donald say, that we're all knife fighting each other in the dark,
right? And it's like,
and that's not how it is. That's not how it is. I mean, you could talk to Shane, but I mean, Shane is friends with the guys at Paizo. I mean, good friends, right? He's good friends with a lot of the Ulysses guys, and it's the same thing. We share a lot of the same people. Hey, good night, Clint. Thanks again for joining us, and thanks for backing me up on the forums while I'm trying to wrangle this Kickstarter.
Right, you guys didn't get to see this today because we didn't get Clint on screen, but everyone knows Shane loves sharks. Clint wore a shark shirt, and he had shark socks on today too. So Clint has been repping the Sharks today, which is actually pretty cool.
Nice, but yeah, no, that and I the other thing is. If you guys go check it out, so I have a YouTube channel, a little YouTube channel where I've done some things. I haven't done anything in a while, but since about a year ago. But the last thing I did was this huge, and I should have cut it up, but this 2.5 hour mega interview with Kevin, and we talked about a lot of these subjects. So if you really want more about that and hear more of Kevin's opinion, you can go check that out. Also, it looks like we're going to be lining something up with him soon, I hope, to do another interview. But that and I'm very flattered. He's been very, very excited about how Rifts for Savage Worlds has been progressing. He's really liked, I guess you call it the second edition, right, or the Suede edition of Rifts for Savage Worlds. He's been very positive about the 3 new North America world books. He's been super excited about Atlantis, and then he gave us the green light. He was very positive about us putting out the pawn sets, the maps. He's very complimentary, and we work very closely with him on all this, right? So it's not like Kevin is disconnected from the process. Everything has to go through him in the end, right? I try and get it up to what I think he will like, and I was really proud with the newest art, all this art for Atlantis. A lot of it he was like, yep, love it. And guys, if you look at the Kickstarter page, we've got some killer art. I mean, just look at this background. I mean, we've got some killer art in this book. But I'm really and shout out to our friends at Sigil Entertainment. They work very closely with us and manage the art and a lot of visual assets for Pinnacle. And also Carl Kiesler. That guy did a bang-up job because he did a lot of update to the little headers and stuff in the book. Well, this one, we got tentacles coming out of stuff and blood splotches and stuff. So just to make sure that you get that feel, the right feel when you're in the Atlantis book. So I think that's a really great thing that's happened, and we're really proud to be able to expand that partnership and that relationship.
And speaking of which, I mean, I think the sorry, answering Shane. The let's see, no, just 1 second. So the speaking of sorry, when Shane pings, you got to answer, right? He needs the info. And the Sigil guys, there's actually another Kickstarter. So it's not a Pinnacle Kickstarter, but we definitely want to throw some love to Aaron. Aaron is doing, let me get the link for you guys so we can actually bring this up, because this is cool. It's a 5e Kickstarter, and it's superheroes themed. It's S5e superhero role playing for 5th edition.
Check that out if you like superheroes and 5th edition.
We'll throw a link in the chat, and you guys can check it out. But I'll actually throw it up on screen too, because why not? And let me see if I can do a quick little share on this. But that's the thing, right? Is everyone, we are all friends. There's not everyone's not friends, but let's remove the brand for a second so you guys can see this. Let's see, boom. So S5e superhero role playing for 5th edition, and Sigil is kind of one of the reasons that working with Simon and Shane that the Savage Worlds looks so good. This new kind of style of art that they've gone after, and Sigil is a big part of that. So these guys, they just launched today. They've already got 122 backers, and they've met their goal. Their goal was 3,000. They're already up to 8,700. But you look at what they've done, and really great art, really nice design. You can just kind of see the touches that Aaron and team brings to games. So if you haven't seen this yet, let me throw the link into the chat so you guys can go check that out after you back Savage Rifts, of course. But
yes,
priorities.
Right, priorities. But I mean, again, we've seen time and again that the rising waters rising tide rises all boats.
Lifts all ships.
Yep. Right. There are rivalries in the sense of, like, I think players get attached to their certain systems and like
designers and stuff like that, right?
But I think from everything we're seeing, RPGs are in a good place, because a couple people mentioned over in the chat about TSR making a comeback with Ernie Gygax Jr., some of the old TSR guys, and it's going to be based out of Lake Geneva. So I think we're in a really good time for RPGs.
There's a lot of space, stuff. Right? Yeah, and as we were talking, actually, if you check out the interview that Chris and I did with Kevin, I mean, we talk about this too as well. That it's what's good for one game system is good for another, because it's all about just having more RPG players. It's not like you have. There might be some people that only have Dungeons and Dragons, right? Or only have Savage Worlds, but there's a lot of people. Most people like me have some stupid collection of a pile of different RPGs, or a source book, or a player's guide that they bought to play in another game. And so it really is a joint industry in a lot of ways, and it's almost recession proof, because you get so many hours of entertainment out of RPGs compared to like going to the movie theater or buying a set at like $60-$70 game or something, right? And a pass and all this crap. So that's one of the things that I really love about it, and that I really respect about it. I did see a question with one of the guys was asking about what iconic frameworks are in here. So do you mind if I just kind of blow through this list to get it out there for some of the players?
Right.
Sure.
I'm perfectly happy to share it with you guys. So we do have the Bioborg as an iconic character framework. So that's someone who's been usually captured by the Splugor, and then magically mutated and transformed into some sort of something similar to like a full conversion cyborg. So they'd be completely mutated by these abilities and effects. And there's ways you can customize them. They also may have like different parasites or biosymbiotes that have become a part of them. It's really wicked stuff. And so if you like the idea of something like that, I think you're going to really enjoy this. Then we have the Stone Master is in here. And I think that this one, Kevin said something to me. And so I sometimes with translating this stuff over, the Palladium system, the Savage World system, they're both very universal systems where they have one rule set for lots of settings. But they function very differently mechanically. So it can be challenging translating things over, and sometimes even for me, you're tempted to do like a 1-for-1, or let's compare the NDC of this guy and turn it into toughness or something. And that doesn't work. You've got to go thematically. And Kevin told me, he said, have fun. That's one of the things he told me last year. And I kind of took it to heart. So we've got, I don't think anything breaks canon, right? And Kevin's reviewing the manuscript right now, so it won't. But it might be presented in a new, different way. Like a lot of people have really enjoyed what we did with the Juicer, what we did with the Crazy. And I think that similarly, I hope that people will enjoy the Stone Master, and they can do traditional magic. They also can tap into the gem magic powers and other abilities, plus their Stone Mastery powers, where they can basically. I'm not a big Avatar fan, but they can like bend rock and form it and stuff like that magically, and they can control the Magic Stone Pyramids. They are the ones that build the Magic Stone Pyramids. And we have the Tattooed Warrior, which is, again, these are victims that have been kidnapped by the Splugor. Tattoo magic in rifts doesn't work on all humanoids, right? It doesn't work on it. You need to basically be immortal. It works on humans, and then their close races like the true Atlanteans, which are kind of like they've perfected their human form using magic, but they're still human. And it works on ogres, which in the lore are very closely related to humans, and it kind of works on elves, and it can be put on dragons. But anyways, that means the Tattooed Warriors. These are all captured slaves that have been forced to be turned into a warrior that uses these different magical weapons and tattoos in arena combat, or in the service of evil masters, and they've escaped. And so we've got the Tattoo Warrior. We also have the Undead Slayer. So these are true Atlanteans that are tattooed up, and they're like the elite warriors of Atlantean clans and their society. So the true Atlantean, or the Undead Slayers, wander the Megaverse trying to destroy the undead and evil. And that's why they're called Undead Slayers. But the very, 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 you want to play the tip of the toppy power level for what you can do with tattoo magic. These guys are bad boys. And then and I think people have been waiting for those for a while. We also have some Mars frameworks. So we've got the Atlantean Nomad, which in the lore, when Atlantis had its cataclysm, thousands of years ago. And Atlantis, the continent itself, was pulled into an interdimensional limbo. The Atlanteans, as many as could, escaped and were scattered across the Megaverse to all different types of timelines and realities. And so the Atlantean Nomads are Atlanteans that they have kind of like I guess you'd call it sort of like a Rumspringa. I don't want to get that wrong, but they have this thing where they go out, and as part of their coming of age, they travel through the Megaverse and learn about the Megaverse, because they're very long-lived. So the Atlantean Nomads are that way. They go out there, and some of them never came back, right? They're still tied to the clan technically and would serve the clan if they need to, but they're out doing their business in the Megaverse. And so you can play as an Atlantean Nomad. We have the Lemurian Bird Warriors, which is the Lemurian Society's flying original warriors that wear suits of biomancy armor. We have the Lemurian Serpent Hunter, which is like the Lemurian version of a knight errant. They ride the thrall sea serpents, and they are great at slaying different serpents and stuff like that. They have some really cool weapons and gear. We have the Ocean Wizards, and so the most powerful. These are wizards where their magic is focused on the ocean. They can survive underwater more than any mortal should be able to. And they also, the most powerful of them, can become whale singers, which they can sing rituals basically. And then we have sea druids, again, a very aquatic focus. But they can morph into different animals in addition to their druidic powers. We have the Sea Inquisitors, which there's this thing called the Lord of the Deep, and it's a monster, this ancient evil that's been on Earth for thousands of years, but it was dormant and asleep until the Great Cataclysm awoke it again. And so it has tentacles that reach like 3,000 miles. Its tentacles can literally reach across the globe. Wow. It'll in the middle of the night, like some Cthulhu story, this massive tentacle will rise out of the sea and like grab a whole village full of people and drag them into the water, and then it turns them into these. The Lord of the Deep turns them into these evil, monster sea human hybrids that are like sirens or mermaids, or but are like evil version of those. And they also have cults that worship the Lord of the Deep. But when someone encounters the Lord of the Deep or his reachers, his tentacles, and resists him, they can become what's called a Sea Inquisitor. So they're empowered by the power of light and good, and they're driven to destroy the Lord of the Deep and his minions. And so I think that we've been playing one of these guys in our test campaign. It's awesome. I think it's gonna be people are gonna really like this framework. We have new races. This book has a lot of races because I wanted to do short shrift. I wanted to hit all the major stuff that you need to really enjoy. I mean, you've got racial build rules and all that stuff, obviously, but in the basic Savage Worlds book. I think that, and in the Tomorrow Legion Players Guide, we have supplemental material for that, but we really wanted to give you the big heavy hitting stuff. So we've got the amphibs, which are humans that have been crossed with animal DNA to survive underwater. They're the denizens of Tritonia. It's a floating city in the setting. We have the Haroon. You can play a rogue Haroon pirate. We have the Katani. They are the Splugor like tech masters, and a lot of their commandos and stuff like that use technology. We have the Kydians, which are their enforcers, their big brute enforcers. We have the Lemurians. So again, the cousins of the Atlanteans from the Pacific, more closely related to, say, like Thai or Southeast Asian people. But they've again, like the Atlanteans, they've changed their permanent DNA and physical structure through magic to change themselves, and so they can live in land or water. There's the Naut-Yul. It's a race of invading aliens. So we've got those. We've got ogres. I think everybody knows basically what those are. We've got Rulians, which are legendary interdimensional translators. It's a race that psychically, pheromonally, like they're all about language. They're language savants. We have the Sea Titans. So some members of the New Navy in the lore, they encountered a interdimensional energy which changed everyone who was exposed to it permanently. And when they have kids, those kids have the same abilities. Basically, they're up there and they're on par with being like demigods. So when they come of age, so you can play a larger than life hero of human descent that's been, their family line has been modified by this energy from a rift. Again, we have true Atlanteans, so you got 2 pages on that, and then these entries also get you the major background you need to get in and play and have fun and understand the setting. We've also got the Zimbok. So these are these sentient worms, which are masters of like psionics and magic, and you can play as one. It's going to be a really offbeat or different, challenging character to play, I think. But I think we've gotten to a really great place with it. That's going to be really fun for people to role play with. And then we've got hindrances, like with your tattoo magic. Edges. With your tattoo magic, with the crystal mastery or gem mastery. We also have, if you want to play, there's variations of the tattooed warriors. And so if you want to play as a tattooed archer, you can do that. If you want to play as a tattooed monster warrior, these are tattooed warriors that have a lot of animal tattoos that can come to life. You can play that. You take this at the beginning when you build your character, and so that character has that specialization and those special unique tattoo combinations. And then we also have the Maxi Warriors, which these are the elite tattooed warriors that are raised by the Splugorth from birth to be like, their elite minions. And these guys can be great for villains, but you could play a hero that's that too as well, right? That's rejected that. And then we also have some other stuff that I think will really round things out, as well as edges for like underwater acclimation, because in this we have a lot of rules for underwater combat and how certain weapons work great in it, certain don't. And then just to get just a quick overview of the gear section, we have new manufacturers, including Avenger Armaments, which is the inheritor of Ironheart Armaments and their legacy. More about that in the book. And we talk about the dimensional market at Splin and how to use that. But we have, in this book, we have more gear, I think, easily than what is in the Tomorrow Legion Player's Guide. So we've got tons of equipment that you can use that's specific to Atlantis or the high seas or the underseas, right? And the ships that you need, and not just the stuff that Avenger Armaments produces that maybe they've been given the the rights to produce from, say, the New Navy or Tritonia. They share some of their technology, but also the stuff that the Katani make, right? Like these interdimensional arms dealers, right? Essentially. And so there's a lot of cool equipment, all the ships and weird craft, hovercraft and barges and all types of stuff you need to get going, along with symbiotes, parasites, rune weapons, rune statues.
To me, it sounds like there's
I think you're muted, Landauer.
Oh, the rune stuff. There are like 7 comments. Like, are there rune weapons? Are there rules for rune weapons?
Oh,
Can I have rune weapons?
What you see in Atlantis, right? World Book 2, playing World Book 2, it's generally in here. Now, one effort that I did make is that and some a decent portion of stuff from the World Book. I think it's 21. It's the interdimensional market of Splin. It has its own. That market has its own World Book, right? But some of the highlights from that, I would say. But the great thing here is that you can come in here and you've got it, right? It's here, and so that you can use it in your games. And also, I give you a system to create custom rune weapons. So if you really want to create something custom, you can do that. If you want to figure out your own bio symbiotes or one that maybe wasn't in the World Book 2 Atlantis, then you could easily look at the symbiotes and the stuff that I've got in here. And of course, we'd love to include a lot of that stuff in future material. But we wanted to make sure we could hit the highlights and fit everything in the book.
Well, and one thing I really like that you've done is that you're really good about in this book mentioning what Rift's books you can go look at for more detail. And
so if you want to go look at a Palladium Rift book, we very clear. I very clearly, I say we a lot of times, but I mean I wrote this book, so if something's wrong, it's my fault. But I hogged it all to myself. But one thing I will say is that that you should be able to easily reference back where things are and what they come from to get way more material. And there's just so much. I mean, again, we're trying to play catch up a little bit with 30 years of development in Palladium Rifts. And so I'm just trying to make sure I get you guys as many tools as possible so you can handle this whole theme all at once. I didn't want to do Atlantis and not include Lemuria and the Nautiel and the Horun and the New Navy and Tritonia and the Lord of the Deep, because they all are very intertwined thematically and in the narrative. And so I think that this will give you and it's really cool seeing it all in one picture. I think I've gotten that feedback from a lot of the readers, the early readers that I've shared it with. The other thing is it's funny when you go through the old books, a lot of stuff will say, it'll be in the equipment section, right? And it's like, blah, 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 blah. But this is only sold to the minions of Splugor. Or it's never sold on the open market. It's only available to minions of Splugor upon assignment or something, right? And so that equipment isn't in your player-facing gear section. That stuff is then in the later sections of the World Book for each region. So I think it'll be a lot easier for game masters to navigate. Yes, look at this section. Hey, if you're playing my campaign, don't peek. At the entries at the end of the chapter about Atlantis or about the New Navy or whatever, right? There's also an update in here that gives you the major coalition vehicles and watercraft that are used. So that's another thing that you should be able to take care of in your campaigns and have available to you is what is the Coalition doing? And a really important update about the Coalition Navy, because if you're familiar with the old Coalition Navy source book, that was at like their height before it got wiped out and decimated by the war with Quebec and Tolkien, and then kind of the invisible front in Texas, because in Texas, the where the Coalition had a major naval base, they got their butt kicked. And so Kevin and I worked really hard to update that in Empires of Humanity. So definitely check that out if you're doing a naval campaign to get the right frame. And then this one also will bring you up to speed, so you'll have the stuff you need for the Coalition Navy, so that you can also correctly include that in your campaign. And then again, all this, Kevin and I talk a lot. And so this is all very carefully coordinated to give you something like Avenger Armaments is canon. You know, we decided exactly where it was going to go. It's in Hughestown. And so, you know, don't be surprised if you see that in a Palladium update somewhere. Eventually, I mean, their books, they're focused on, you know, it's a little different production speed and stuff like that. But yeah, we, you know, for different things that they're doing, I don't know when that might hit a book that would be relevant in, right? But yeah, so this is stuff that's really great for any fan of Rifts, for a Palladium Rifts fan, a Savage Rifts fan, a fan of both. To be able to take a look at and really understand the setting and what they should be seeing. Also, I'll say real quick that with, say, the Katani, I didn't include all the different Katani power armors. I included the ones that in the lore are the mainstays of their forces, the APCs and robot vehicles that are the mainstays of their forces. You could very easily take that and figure out, hey, I want to do this equestrian power armor, and I really hope we can do some adventures that might, you know, or other material in the future that might put, you know, official rules out for some stuff like that. But this really gets you the way you're going to need to go to get to the big adventure, right?
Well, and we, you know, we're already close to our time, but I mean, there's two really good meaty questions from chat, so hopefully we can get through both of these, and then we'll call it a day. But Abuelo Saragar asked a big one about, you know, one of the daunting things about the original Atlantis was that Atlantis itself was clearly a haven for evil, and where good characters were likely to be overwhelmed and enslaved eventually. Is this version of Atlantis a bit more accessible? The PCs can visit Atlantis without needing to be the demigod power level to avoid defeat and enslavement. So I think you touched on that a bit about the fact that you've included so much more of the narrative around that. But if you anything else you want to touch on, that'd be great. There's
a lot of detail on that in here, but I would say, you know, Atlantis isn't the canon, the lore hasn't changed. You know, Kevin and I discussed this. But I approach this very carefully because, yeah, it's no, not necessarily, right? I mean, if you're just going to waltz in and as a bunch of humans that aren't able to hold their weight in Atlantean society or don't understand it, that's almost the most dangerous part, is not understanding their society and their mores and stuff like that, because to them, you're nothing. Now, if you had a group composed of hatchling dragons, you're going to be treated like visiting celebrities, because a lot of the Atlanteans worship dragons. So in Palladium Rifts, there is a cult called the Cult of Dragonrite. Well, that's also the same name of a dragon worshipping, but it's more of a good guy thing in Palladium fantasy. So to deconflict the intellectual properties, Kevin and I have renamed that cult, but it's the same thing, or it's the same lore. It's just it's called Dragon Dawn in Rifts for Savage Worlds, and I would be surprised if you might see that cropping up in Palladium books eventually as well. But cool. So you know, because of Dragon Dawn, if you waltzed in as a group of those, or maybe you know, in the right races, or you know, character backgrounds, yeah, you might be able to waltz through Atlantis. But if you're humanoid mortals that they don't respect, no. And I would say this isn't where you send your low level group. You send them there to get eaten, right? And that's like feeding, you know, fish to, you know, chum to piranhas or something. But one of the things that I worked on really hard on this, though, is that each of the major factions, like the New Navy, the Lemurians, you know, the not really organized, but the Sea Inquisitors and the Whale Singers and stuff like that. There's the Savage Tales put you in contact with each one of these different good guy factions, and they're designed so that it gives you that initial contact, and a game master could run with that and do more adventures with the New Navy or more adventures with the Lemurians, right? With allies like that, you can survive in this setting. The other thing is I suggest, and you don't have to, obviously, you can do whatever you want, but I talk about it in the Clockpoint campaign, but I suggest playing those adventures through and then leading into the Plot Point campaign. The Plot Point campaign is designed for strong characters. I have notes about, you might need to season the taste if your group is more or less combat heavy, right? For some of the encounters. But in general, it has a wide variety of skill-based challenges and ability-based challenges and combat. But the main campaign is crashing and being marooned on Atlantis, getting caught up with the underground, the movement that's trying to free slaves, which, in Palladium lore, there's the, I'm going to get it wrong. There's the Liberated Underground. And then in this one, in the Plot Point campaign, I introduce a faction called the Invisible Railroad, I think, or the Unseen Railroad. But so you get involved with these groups and you join this Undead Slayer named Spartacus. He's taken on this persona. No one knows who he is. It's a true Atlantean Undead Slayer, and he's leading this uprising, this slave uprising. So you get to take part in this uprising revolt. So you can enjoy Atlantis, and you can do a lot of cool stuff in Atlantis, and you have a reason to be there, and you're not just getting, hopefully, punched in the face too much. So so hopefully thematically and narratively it's accessible. But no, Atlantis isn't a place where you go walk hand to hand with demons, eating lollipops.
Oh, that's fantastic. And then a really good
it's dark, it's horror, right?
It's there. It's it does not skirt away from the big themes. And so because we have these cool new maps, and as you mentioned, and actually this is actually rather unique. I don't know that many, outside of Pinnacle and Rifts, usually when you get pyramid maps, they're always ancient and decrepit, right? And they're, this is a cool, legit, not decrepit pyramid map that you can get the inside of. And we got a great question just asking on the inspiration for that map. So you mentioned that the interior layouts for stone pyramids. Did the team reference the Palladium Rift's title Secrets of the Atlanteans, or is there another take on the interior layout? So
yeah, that's what we referenced. So the Arc Final, there's some of that. So everything but two pieces that I wanted to then add and squeeze in to Atlantis. Atlantis is essentially done. We obviously really want the fan feedback and stuff like that, but the art is virtually done. When I got the chance to do some supplementary art, I was like, well, if we're gonna do a pawn of it, I really like to have this art in this, in the book as well. It'd be nice. I can squeeze it in here and here. The art's done, but some of that other stuff is for the book itself. But some of the other stuff is still in progress. So I'm not sure. And we also have to go through the approval process with Kevin. But yes, I did reference that. So it should fit canon. That we reference that for the interior layout, so it shouldn't conflict with anything, or if it does, it's intentional.
That's awesome. Well, we are going into hour 16 of being awake and working on this for you guys, so I think it's time for us to take a little break. Thank you so much. The Kickstarter has just reached over 65,000, and even more importantly, more than 810 backers.
817. I just looked.
Oh wow! And looking at the previous Kickstarters, that's really a great number for us. It shows that the community is supporting this, and that you guys have been fantastic. So yeah, that 810 is a really great number. More important than the cash, that's really what's going to keep both Rifts alive and in the Savage community, kicking. We're glad to see that you guys have embraced this, and clearly you've wanted it. That message has been sent. There's been some pent up demand for Rifts Atlantis.
There is. Well, and one thing I will say, I just want to reiterate how much we appreciate you guys. You guys are the best fans ever. I love the community. One thing that I will ask of you is, one of the things we have a really hard time with is getting the word out. All of us know people that maybe used to play Rifts or are interested in Rifts, or we know would love Rifts and Savage Worlds, right? Or maybe you know somebody that's a Palladium fan, right? Please help us message those people, share things with them, so that they know that there is a Palladium Fan Tier, that we have all of the previous books available as add-ons, or you can order them right now from the Pinnacle store. You can have 1,000 pages of Savage Rifts on your door, very shortly, and chew on that until these books hit, right? So please get that word out. Also, in the beginning of this, we talked about the, introducing Rifts. What is Rifts? So there's that free PDF that's available for anybody that doesn't know Rifts or might be interested in Rifts or just never got it, never understood it. Please check that out. I put that together and we've gotten great feedback. I think that that's a great way to give people the rundown very quickly and it's some smashing art. I mean, you guys are going to see it and you're going to be like, some of this art, we'll put it in a book, right? And because it's the graphic novel size format, it's like this big. Well, in this, we blow it up full size and you can see this gorgeous detail in this art. So if you're just a fan, I would say download it. It's free and you get to see the art at like eye-popping size. It's really beautiful stuff. So please check it out. Please get the word out to all the nooks and crannies of the internet. And that'll really help us on this campaign because, again, Shane and Jody and everyone talks about it, but we get people that didn't know, 3 months later, they didn't know there was a Kickstarter. Heck, they never even knew there was a Rifts for Savage Worlds. They didn't know there were pawns or something, right? So we really want to get that word out, and I'm doing as much as I can, but I mean, I have a hard time just staying on top of the comments, staying on top of the Facebook group and the official forums. Clint's even helping me with some of the Q&A in the forums. So I really, really, really personally appreciate if you get that word out to your family, friends, and stuff like that.
So with that, I mean, I think it's a great testament to the legacy of Rifts and Kevin that you've continued here, Sean. So join us, guys. Like, speaking of legacy, you guys can celebrate the legacy of Rifts and Deadlands and even Savage Mommy and the Rocky Mountain Savages by joining us in Deadwood in August. Badges are on sale. You can meet Roberson and play in some Rifts. It's definitely a celebration of Deadlands, but there will be Rifts. There will be Rifts. And come join us in Deadwood or on the Savage Cruise. And
I'll run some New West themed stuff, so it'll fit the theme.
Right. Guys. I mean, thank you. We appreciate seeing you on the stream. I think there's over 850 of you now that are following us on the stream.
That's one of my favorite parts about doing this live now is the interaction.
This is cool, and I apologize, guys. There's been so many comments to be able to talk. I can't read all your comments, but I really appreciate Savage Mommy and Landauer putting up managing this and coordinating it and putting up the comments. But I just want to tell you guys, I haven't been able to read all the comments, but I love you, and I really really appreciate the fans. What you guys have done for me. This was my first opportunity, as I wasn't even done with my game design degree, right? Got out of the Air Force. I was doing my game design degree. I got the chance to work on Rifts for Savage Worlds, and it's only gotten better since then. And there's some stuff that we're not quite ready to announce yet, but there's stuff coming up in the next 6 months to a year that's going to blow people's socks off. After this, there's also going to be, for instance, there's the Land of 1,000 Islands, South America. We're super stoked. We have put together a small team of elite individuals to help develop this stuff.
Their mission, if they chose to accept it.
Right. But I just want to tell you guys that I just, from the bottom of my heart, I wouldn't be able to do this without your support. You make this possible, and it's very humbling. It's very humbling.
So I mean, we're really excited. We're excited that you guys have been able to back so many of these, even though we are throwing them at you every other month. Thank you for that. If you think about it, in like 2019, I think, or 2020, it was only Deadlands, right? And there was so much more that the Pinnacle has in store for you. And I mean, obviously, this line has been amazingly successful. The teams have been great. The companions are coming out. The great new properties like Holler. There's just so much for you guys. So if we don't keep marching along steadily, we'll just never get through it. And it's a great time to be a Pinnacle fan, a great time to be a Palladium fan. All things. I mean, we're getting back to be able to play with each other in person. So back to Kickstarter if you can. Those pawns are great. Share them with your old school Rifts friends. Like, let your Rifts friends know, the Palladium Rifts friends. They're like, hey guys, Pinnacle supporting just Palladium fans. You can get the maps and the pawns and all that, and keep playing in the rule system you love. What could be better?
Yeah, so, I mean, we want it to be as interchangeable as possible, right? No one's trying to edge anyone else out at all. And the other thing I'll say is we've got that we just leaked that we're going to be doing the Superpowers Companion next, Pinnacle. And so I had a look at that. I wasn't like involved in writing it, but I did have a look at it, and I think it's going to be really exciting stuff. And I checked over some of the stuff to make sure it would gel with Rifts, and we're really excited about once that's through its whole process of development to support superheroes in Rifts. That's something that I'm very dedicated to, is to support that. And there's another one of the companions. I can't say anything; they'll really beat me up, but it's going to have my name in it. So I did a decent bit of work on one of them.
Ooh, so I didn't know we were going to even more spoilers. Everyone was like, "Can Lando or spoil?"
That's like a super mysterious spoiler because I'm not giving any specifics. But
that's hot.
But I just say that these companions are going to be awesome, and I think that for Rifts or Savage Worlds fans, because a lot of people they came to Savage Rifts, right? Maybe they've never even played Palladium Rifts or Savage Worlds before. And so I'm just letting you guys know these companions are going to be super dynamite for using in your Rifts or Savage Worlds campaigns. Just as in the Tomorrow Legion Player's Guide, we've got guidelines for taking a Deadlands character and bringing it into and creating it for the Rifts for Savage World setting. So I think that, for the Rift setting. So I think that there's a lot of really great crossover out there. I really hope the fans keep that in mind. But of course, first things first, get the Rifts books.
That's right.
So we didn't get any more questions. Save it for the next stream, guys. We're going to get Kevin back ASAP, and we will be doing more.
Yep.
Right, and Thursday is the Deadlands AP, so that's for sure the next thing that you'll see from us. And then we're going to just kind of bombard you with some more goodness. We're going to do some more interviews. The actual play for Rifts is kind of been demanded now, so we're going to try to pull that together and do that.
It'll
live.
Happen. We'll make it happen. Yep, It'll be live. So I'm really excited about that, guys. Take note when that comes out. Please tell your friends and remind your friends. See if you can make it happen, because I didn't want to do it live. But after our discussion earlier in a previous interview, I am convinced. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I really like as many hardcore Rifts or Savage Worlds or just Rifts fans and Savage Worlds fans to be there to help us make it zany shenanigans.
Yeah, and with that, without further ado, we're going to say adios. We're going to go actually get some sleep.
Yes,
but again, thanks everybody. See you in Deadwood. See you on the cruise, and see you in Atlantis. So cheers. Ooh, disclaimer, this game podcast references the Savage Worlds game system available from Pinnacle Entertainment Group at www.peginc.com. It is unofficial media content permitted under the Media Network Content Agreement. This content is not managed, approved, or endorsed by Pinnacle Entertainment Group. Certain portions of the materials used are intellectual property of Pinnacle, and all rights are reserved. Savage Worlds, all related settings, and unique characters, locations, logos, and trademarks are copyrights of Pinnacle Entertainment Group.